You used to feel it, that specific aliveness, the feeling of waking up and having something to look forward to, the feeling of being pulled toward something, curious about something, excited by the possibility of what the day might hold. You remember it. Maybe it was years ago. Maybe it was not that long ago, but it feels like another lifetime. Maybe you cannot even pinpoint when exactly it left. You just know that one day you looked up and it was gone. And now you move through your days doing everything you are supposed to do. You function. You show up. You complete the tasks and meet the people and go through the motions of a life that looks, from the outside, completely fine. But something is missing. Not something dramatic, not something you can easily point to. Just a quality, a warmth, a forward pull, the feeling that what is coming next actually matters. You do things that used to make you happy, and they do not quite land the same way. You achieve things you worked toward and feel a flatness where the satisfaction should be. You are around people you love and notice a slight distance between you and the moment, like you are watching your own life through glass, present in body, somewhere else in spirit. And the question underneath all of it, the one that arrives in quiet moments and will not leave, is this: what happened to me? That question is worth answering honestly, because the answer is not what most people think it is. And the answer changes everything. Here is the first thing you need to hear, and this is important to get right from the beginning. You have not lost your capacity for excitement. It has not been destroyed. It is not left permanently. It has not been used up. It has been buried under something, often under several somethings, layers of experience and adaptation and quiet suppression that have, over time, muffled the signal. The signal is still there. It is still generating. You are just not receiving it clearly anymore. And the difference between lost and buried matters enormously. Lost means gone. Buried means findable. Buried means if you understand what covered it and you start removing the weight, it comes back. Not immediately, not all at once, but it comes back, because it was never really gone. It was waiting, under everything that accumulated on top of it. And clearing that weight is exactly what this is about. But here is what you are missing about why the excitement disappeared. Most people assume the problem is external. They think they need a new job, a new relationship, a new city, a new chapter, something outside to change so the feeling inside can return. And sometimes those things help. Sometimes a genuine change of circumstances is part of what is needed. But here is the truth that most people discover too late. If the problem is internal, no external change holds. You get the new job and feel flat after 3 months. You move to the new city and bring the same emptiness with you. You start the new relationship and notice, with a quiet dread, that the numbness is still there. Because the flatness was never about the circumstances. The circumstances were just where the flatness lived. The flatness came from inside, from a relationship with yourself and with your own inner life that gradually, without announcement, stopped working, and understanding how that happened is the only way to genuinely reverse it. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this is the piece most people have never heard named clearly. The excitement you are missing is not a mood, it is a signal. A specific signal that your nervous system generates when something is genuinely aligned with who you are. When what you are doing actually connects to something real inside you. When the life you are living has some genuine overlap with the person you actually are. And that signal, when it goes quiet, is not telling you that life is boring. It is telling you that somewhere along the way, you started living a life that was not quite yours. Not dramatically, not all at once. Gradually, through a series of very reasonable decisions, each one made for understandable reasons, each one defensible, each one in isolation, completely sensible. The dream that got quietly shelved because it was not practical, the version of yourself that got set aside because it was not appropriate for where you were, the things that genuinely lit you up that got less and less time because other things demanded more. The honest inner voice that got quieter and quieter because you got better and better at not listening to it. And at some point, without a single dramatic turning point, you were living a life that was built from other people's expectations and your own accommodations and the accumulated weight of practical decisions. A life that looked right, that made sense on paper, that other people could look at and understand, but that did not quite feel like yours. And the excitement, which is the signal your nervous system generates when your life is genuinely aligned with who you are, went quiet. Because there was nothing left to signal toward. Now here is something that reframes this entirely. The flatness you are experiencing has a clinical name. It is called anhedonia, the reduced ability to feel pleasure or excitement from things that used to produce it. And it is far more common than most people know. It shows up in people who are not depressed in any obvious way, people who are functioning well, people who look completely fine from the outside, people who, if you ask them, would say they are okay, because they are okay technically. They are just not alive in the way they used to be. And the reason anhedonia so often goes unnamed and unaddressed is that it does not announce itself dramatically. It creeps. It arrives through the slow dulling of responses that used to be sharp, through the gradual narrowing of what produces genuine joy, through the quiet disappearance of the spontaneous, unprompted excitement that used to arrive without being earned. You stop noticing it happening, until one day you notice it has happened, and you cannot quite remember when the world started looking a little less colorful. Here's the part that goes deepest, and it requires some honesty. One of the primary reasons people lose their excitement about life is not that bad things happen to them. It is that they stopped taking risks. Not big risks, not dramatic, life-altering gambles. The small risks, the risk of caring about something out loud, the risk of trying something you might not be good at, the risk of wanting something specific and specific enough that not getting it would mean something. The risk of being seen genuinely pursuing something rather than performing the pursuit from a safe distance. Because here is what happens when you stop taking those risks. The excitement goes with them. Excitement and risk are connected at the neurological level. The brain generates anticipatory excitement in response to uncertainty with positive possibility. When you do something with a known outcome, the brain produces very little of the chemistry of excitement. When you do something where the outcome is genuinely uncertain, where it actually matters whether it goes well or not, the brain produces a great deal of it. This is why childhood is so vivid. Everything is uncertain. Everything is new. Everything matters in a way that is immediate and real. And this is why adulthood, as it becomes more controlled, more predictable, more carefully managed, so often becomes less exciting. Not because adulthood is worse, because the management of uncertainty that feels like safety is actually the removal of the conditions that produce aliveness. You got careful. You got protected. You got very good at not putting yourself in positions where things could go wrong. And in doing that, you also got very good at not putting yourself in positions where things could go brilliantly. The same wall that keeps the risk out keeps the excitement out in equal measure. Here is what you are missing about how you spend your attention, because this is one of the most overlooked contributors to the loss of excitement that exists. Your brain is designed to find meaning in what you consistently pay attention to, not in what you think about occasionally, in what you actually attend to repeatedly as a habit. And for most people, what they consistently attend to is not the things that genuinely light them up. It is the things that demand attention. The notifications, the news, The social media feeds designed to hold you in a loop of mild outrage and mild entertainment and mild comparison, none of which produces genuine aliveness, but all of which occupies the attention that could be going somewhere more meaningful, the passive consumption. Hour after hour of other people's content, other people's lives, other people's opinions, other people's experiences, and the brain, oriented outward for so long towards so much that is flat and stimulating in a shallow way, but never truly nourishing, gradually loses its ability to generate genuine internal excitement. It gets calibrated to passive reception rather than active engagement. It stops expecting to be moved because it has not been genuinely moved in a long time. The excitement you are missing is not available in the feed. It has never been there. It is available in the engagement, in doing rather than watching, in creating rather than consuming, in being genuinely inside your own experience rather than observing someone else's, and returning to that deliberately, consistently, is one of the most direct paths back to feeling alive. Now here is the midpoint truth that most people need to hear. You are not bored with life. Life is not boring. You are disconnected from your own life, and there is a profound difference between those two things. A boring life requires a new life to fix it. A disconnected life requires a new relationship with the life you already have. The disconnection happened gradually, through the accumulation of days where you were physically present but mentally elsewhere, through the habit of moving through experiences without actually inhabiting them, through the practice of consuming your life rather than living it, through the constant forward momentum of getting to the next thing without ever fully arriving in this thing. You have been here, technically, for all of it. But you have not really been here, not fully, not in the way that makes things feel real and vivid, and worth the attention of a human being with a finite amount of time. And the practice of returning, of actually arriving in your own life, is not dramatic, it is quiet, it is small, it requires almost nothing external. It requires only that you stop for a moment and actually be in the moment you are in, not planning the next one, not reviewing the last one, not monitoring how you look being in this one, just here, in this specific moment, which is the only one that is actually available. And what happens in that arrival, when it is genuine and not performed, is that the moment reveals something. It reveals that it is enough, that this ordinary moment contains more than the distracted, forward-rushing mind has been giving it credit for. And moments that are actually experienced rather than moved through have a quality that the flatness cannot touch. They are real, and real is the beginning of alive. Let us talk about the things you stopped doing, because this is often where the trail leads. Think back to the activities, the interests, the pursuits that genuinely absorbed you before life got complicated. Not the things you were supposed to enjoy, not the hobbies that made sense for someone in your position, the things you actually lost yourself in, the thing you would do for hours without noticing the time, the thing you thought about when your mind was free to wander, the thing that made you feel most fully like yourself. What happened to it? In most cases, the answer is not dramatic. It did not get taken away. It just got gradually deprioritized, as more pressing things demanded the time, as the version of yourself that needed to be practical crowded out the version that needed to create or explore or play. And at some point, the thing stopped being part of your life, not because you decided to give it up, because you never consciously decided to keep it. And here is what the loss of those things costs that goes beyond the activity itself. It costs a version of you, the version that existed in that activity, the version that was absorbed and present and alive in a way that the managed, functional, productive version of you is not. That version did not disappear when the activity did. It just stopped having anywhere to go. And it is still in there, waiting for you to give it back its time. Not hours, not a restructured life. 20 minutes, once a week to start. The thing you used to love. Done imperfectly, done without the pressure of being good at it, done for no reason other than that it used to make you feel alive. Because the path back to excitement does not run through the future. It runs through the things you stopped doing. Here is something about the people in your life and the role they play in this. Because it is significant and rarely named directly, there are relationships that make you more yourself, where you are wittier, more genuine, more curious, more energized, where the conversation goes somewhere real, where you leave feeling more alive than when you arrived. And there are relationships where you are less yourself, where you are careful, where you manage, where you perform a version of yourself that is appropriate for the dynamic but has nothing to do with who you actually are. Where the conversation stays on the surface because depth would cost something, where you leave feeling flatter than when you came. The relationships in the second category are not necessarily bad relationships. They are not necessarily wrong, but they are consuming something that could be going toward a life that makes you feel alive. Something that could be feeding rather than flattening. And the person who spends the majority of their relational energy in the second category, performing and managing and staying surface, will find that the excitement continues to recede. Because genuine aliveness requires genuine connection, and genuine connection requires being genuinely there, not the managed version, not the appropriate version. Actually there, which means being with people who make actually being there feel safe. Those people are worth finding, worth protecting, worth making more time for. Because they are the conditions for aliveness. Here is the thing about meaning that nobody says directly enough. The absence of excitement is almost always the absence of meaning, not grand, capital M meaning, not a cosmic purpose, not a mission statement. Small, daily, ordinary meaning. The feeling that what you are doing matters, that it connects to something beyond the immediate task, that the hours you are spending are going somewhere real, and meaning is not found. It is built. It is built through the deliberate choice to engage fully with what is in front of you, rather than moving through it on autopilot, through bringing genuine attention to the things that deserve it, through connecting your daily actions, however ordinary, to the things you actually care about. The person who cares about connection and brings genuine presence to a simple conversation has meaning in that moment. The person who cares about making something and spends 20 minutes creating anything has meaning in that moment. The person who values growth and chooses the slightly harder path has meaning in that moment. Meaning is not waiting at the end of some future achievement. It is available in the quality of attention you bring to the present one. And the person who returns their attention to the present, deliberately and repeatedly, finds that the flatness begins to lift, not all at once, not dramatically, but in the accumulation of moments that were actually lived. Something begins to build, a sense that the life being lived is connected to the person living it. And that connection, that felt sense of being genuinely inside your own existence, is where the excitement returns from. Let us talk about what the return actually feels like, because it is important to know what you are moving toward. It does not feel like a sudden burst of enthusiasm. It does not feel like the excitement you had at 20 when everything was new and nothing was certain, and the future felt like an open landscape with no edges. It feels quieter than that. It feels like interest, a genuine, alive curiosity about what comes next. The small forward pull of actually wanting to see how something turns out. The ability to be genuinely present in a moment instead of managing it from a slight distance. It feels like the meal that actually tastes like something. The conversation that actually lands. The book that you actually read rather than moving your eyes over. The morning that has a quality to it rather than just a series of tasks to get through. Small things, but real things, And real things, actually experienced rather than moved through, have a texture that the flatness cannot produce. They are not exciting in the dramatic sense. They are exciting in the alive sense. The sense of being genuinely here, in your own life, in your own body, in your own moment, receiving what is actually available in it, rather than moving through it on the way to the next thing that will also be moved through. That quality, that genuine arrival in your own life, is what returns. And when it returns, even in small doses, even in brief flashes, you remember something. You remember that you are someone who feels things, who is moved by things, who has a genuine inner life that responds to the world with something more than managed neutrality. You remember that the flatness was never the truth about you. It was something that happened to you, something that was built up gradually over time by the accumulation of disconnection and suppression and the slow drift away from what was genuinely yours. And something that was built up gradually can be gradually taken down. Here is where we leave this, not with an instruction, not with a plan, with a question that is worth sitting with slowly and honestly. What would you be doing with your life if you were not afraid of how it looked? Not afraid of whether it made sense to other people, not afraid of whether it was practical or appropriate, or the reasonable choice for someone in your position. If none of that applied, if the only thing that mattered was whether the living of it made you feel genuinely alive, what would be different? Not everything necessarily, maybe something small, maybe one thing that keeps appearing at the edges of your thoughts and then getting dismissed. One version of your day that would feel more like yours, one activity that has been waiting for you to give it back its time, one honest choice in the direction of the life you actually want, rather than the life that makes sense to everyone else. That thing is the thread. Pull it, not dramatically, not by burning everything down, just a small pull, in the direction of what is actually alive in you. And then notice what happens, because here is what happens. The signal comes back. Not all at once, not loudly. Quietly at first. A small warmth where there was flatness. A small pull where there was nothing. A small moment of genuine interest where everything felt like gray. And those small moments, paid attention to, fed by small honest choices made consistently, grow into something real, into the felt sense of a life that is genuinely yours, into the quiet, steady, ordinary aliveness of a person who is actually inside their own life rather than moving through it from a distance. That is where the excitement comes back from. Not from new circumstances. From you. From the honest, courageous, small daily choice to be more fully yourself than you were yesterday. The excitement was never really gone. It was waiting for you to come back to it. You are back now.